Mr. Uzo and his wife, Mrs. Helen, had been married for 7 years. They lived in a big and beautiful house in Lagos. Anyone who saw them together believed they were a happy couple. They smiled together, ate together, and went to parties together. People admired them and wished to have a marriage like theirs. But behind their smiles was a deep pain. For 7 long years, Helen had not given birth to a child. Helen worked as a banker. She was kind, hardworking, and respected by her customers and workmates. Every morning, she dressed neatly in her office clothes and went to work with a smile. But inside her heart, she was always sad. The pain of not having a child followed her everywhere. She thought about it every day and every night. Sometimes she became so worried that she could not focus at work. She made small mistakes while counting money or preparing documents. A manager noticed that something was troubling her, but Helen never told anyone about the pain in her heart. Her husband, Mr. Uzo, owned a very big cement warehouse. He supplied cement to builders, engineers, and many companies. His business was doing very well. He had many workers and other house staff who worked for him. Although Uzo was rich, one thing was missing from his life. He had no child. Almost every week, Uzo's mother visited him. Each time she came, she talked about the same thing. "My son," she would say, "you have waited long enough. You need a woman who can give you children. Marry another wife before it is too late." Uzo always shook his head. "No, Mama," he would reply. "I love my wife Helen. She has stood by me through good and bad times. I cannot leave her because she has not given birth." His mother would sigh deeply. "Love is good," she would say, "but every family needs children." At first, Uzo ignored his mother's words. But as the years passed, those words slowly entered his heart. He began to wonder if his mother was actually right. One Saturday afternoon, Uzo drove to a large supermarket to buy groceries for the house. As he walked through one of the houses, he saw a young woman pushing a shopping trolley. Her name was Uche. She was very beautiful. She had smooth dark skin, bright eyes, and a warm smile. She was neatly dressed and looked simple but attractive. The moment Uzo saw her, he could not stop looking at her. As Uche got to the cashier, she discovered that the money she had was not enough to pay for everything she bought. Without thinking twice, Uzo stepped forward. "Please," he said with a smile, "let me pay for it." Uche looked at him in surprise. "You don't have to," she said politely. "I want to," Uzo replied. He paid for all her groceries. Uche thanked him many times. They stood outside the supermarket and talked for a while. They laughed, exchanged phone numbers, and went their separate ways. Few days later, Uzo called her. Soon, they began talking every day. Not long after that, they started seeing each other in secret. Uche lived with her aunt, but after some months, she became pregnant. When Uzo heard the news, he was filled with joy. He quickly rented a beautiful apartment for her in a quiet part of town. He bought furniture, a television, a refrigerator, and everything she needed. He made sure she never lacked food, money, or anything else. After some months, Uche gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Uzo was the happiest man in the world. He carried the baby in his arms with tears of joy. He quickly called his mother. "Mama," he said happily, "you have a grandson." His mother shouted with excitement. The next day, she traveled to Uche's house to do omugo, taking care of both the new mother and the baby. She cooked for Uche, bathed the baby, cleaned the house, and helped with everything. Everyone was happy. Everyone except Helen. The painful part was that Helen knew nothing. Uzo hid everything from her. Whenever he came home, he acted like the loving husband he had always been. He smiled, joked with her, ate dinner with her, and never gave her any reason to suspect that another woman and a baby had entered his life. 2 years later, Uche gave birth again. This time, she had a beautiful baby girl named Chisom. Now, Uzo had a son and a daughter. He believed all his dreams had finally come through. Some months passed. Helen still believed she had a happy marriage. Every morning, she woke up early, prepared breakfast, kissed her husband goodbye, and drove to the bank. Uzo also left for a cement warehouse, where many customers came every day to buy cement. His business was growing bigger, and he became richer. At home, he still treated Helen with kindness. He bought her expensive gifts, took her out for dinner, and spoke to her with love. Helen never imagined that her husband was living another life. She did not know that Uzo spent many evenings with Uche and their 2 children. Their son, Chidera, was now almost 3 years old. Their little daughter, Chisom, was about 2 years now. Uzo loved both children very much. He visited them often and gave them everything they needed. One Tuesday morning, Uche wanted to take little Chisom to the hospital for her immunization. She dressed both children neatly. Chidera wore a blue t-shirt and a black shirt. Chisom wore a beautifully yellow dress with tiny white shoes. As Uche started the car, the engine suddenly stopped. She tried again. The car refused to start. She quickly picked up her phone and called Uzo. "My car has broken down," she said. "I have to take Chisom to the hospital today." "Don't worry," Uzo replied. "I am coming." Less than 30 minutes later, Uzo arrived with his mechanic. The mechanic stayed behind to repair Uche's car. Uzo brought out the key to his black Mercedes-Benz. "Take my car," he said kindly. "Use it to go to the hospital. I will wait here until your car is repaired." Uche smiled. "Thank you." She carried Chisom into the back seat, helped Chidera wear a seatbelt, and drove away. At the same time, Helen was driving home from work. The afternoon traffic was heavy. Soon, she stopped at a red traffic light. As she waited patiently, she looked through her window. Her eyes suddenly fell on a black Mercedes-Benz parked beside her. She froze. "That looks exactly like Uzo's car," she whispered. She looked carefully at the number. Her heart skipped. It was the same plate number. She smiled. "It must be Uzo." She gently pressed her on. The driver slowly turned and lowered the window. Helen's smile disappeared. Her mouth fell open. It was not Uzo. A beautiful young woman was sitting behind the steering wheel. In the back seat were 2 little children. The little boy smiled happily while holding a toy car. The little girl was sleeping quietly in her baby seat. Helen could not move. She stared at the woman. She stared at the children. Her heart began to beat very fast. "Who is this woman?" she asked herself. "Why is she driving my husband's car?" Before she could think of what to do, the traffic light turned green. Cars behind them began to blow their horns loudly. Uche pressed the accelerator and drove away. Within a few seconds, the Mercedes disappeared. Ellie remained inside her own car. She was too shocked to move. After a few minutes, she managed to drive home. When she entered the compound, she looked around. Uzo's Mercedes was not there. Her heart became even heavier. She slowly entered the house. Uzo was already sitting in the living room drinking a bottle of water as if nothing had happened. He smiled warmly. "Welcome home, my dear." Ellen forced herself to smile. "Thank you." She placed her handbag on the table and sat down beside him. She looked around the compound once more through the window. Then she asked quietly, "Where is your Mercedes?" Uzo did not even hesitate. "Oh," he replied, "it developed a fault this afternoon. I left it with my mechanic." Ellen looked straight into his eyes. She smiled softly. "I hope it won't cost too much to repair." "No," Uzo answered. "It is just a small problem." Ellen nodded. "I understand." She did not ask another question. She acted as if she believed him. That night, they ate dinner together. They laughed. They watched television together. Before going to bed, Helen even kissed her husband goodnight. But inside her heart, many questions refused to leave. The next morning, after Uzo left for work, Helen picked up her phone. She called a private investigator. "I need your help," she said calmly. "I want you to investigate my husband." A few days later, the investigator began his work. He followed Uzo everywhere. He secretly took pictures. He wrote down every places Uzo visited. After 2 weeks, he returned with a brown envelope. Inside were photographs. There were pictures of Uzo holding a little baby, pictures of him carrying a little girl, pictures of him smiling beside a young, beautiful woman. There was also the address of the woman's house. Helen looked at every photograph without saying a word. Tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. The investigator looked at her with pity. "I am sorry," he said quietly. Helen wiped her tears. "Thank you," she replied. She paid him for his work. Then she picked up the paper that carried the woman's address. She looked at it for a long time. "I need to meet this woman," she whispered to herself, "but she must never know who I really am." With those words, Helen folded the paper, placed it inside her handbag, and began to prepare for the biggest secret visit of her life. It was a bright Saturday morning. Helen did not go to work on weekends. Saturday was also the busiest day at Uzo's cement warehouse because many builders and company workers came to buy cement. Very early that morning, Uzo dressed up and left for his warehouse. As soon as he drove away, Helen got ready for her own journey. She wore a beautiful red gown, black high heels, and carried a small black handbag. She looked calm and beautiful, but inside her heart, she was filled with pain and many questions. She started her car and drove to the address the private investigator had given her. When she got close to the house, she parked her car a few meters away so no one would notice her. She took a deep breath and walked slowly to the gate. The house was beautiful and neatly painted. Flowers decorated the front of the compound, and 2 children's bicycles stood beside the entrance. Annie's heart beat faster. She knocked gently on the door. A few seconds later, the door opened. Standing before her was the same beautiful woman she had seen driving Uzo's Mercedes. It was Uche. She was carrying a lovely little girl in her arms. The little girl smiled happily. Beside Uche stood a little boy who held tightly to his mother's leg and looked curiously at the visitor. "Good morning," Helen said with a warm smile. "Good morning," Uche replied politely. "May I come in?" "Of course," Uche answered kindly as she opened the door wider. Helen walked into the house. The sitting room was neat and beautifully arranged. The furniture looked expensive and family photographs decorated the walls. "Please have a seat," Uche said. "Thank you," Helen replied. Uche carried her little daughter into the bedroom and gently laid her inside a small bed. Chidera stayed in the room, happily playing with a toy cars. A few moments later, Uche returned to the living room. She smiled at Helen. "I don't think I've seen your face before. But anyways, how may I help you?" Helen smiled back. "My name is Bridget," she lied. "I just moved into this neighborhood. I don't really know anyone here, so I decided to meet some of my neighbors." Uche immediately relaxed. "Oh, you are welcome," she said happily. "The people around here are friendly. The area is peaceful too. There are good shops, schools, hospitals, and supermarkets nearby." The 2 women continued talking. Helen was happy because Uche was beginning to trust her. As they chatted, Helen slowly looked around the living room. Her eyes suddenly stopped on a large picture frame hanging on the wall. The picture showed Uche standing beside Uzo. They were smiling happily. Uzo had one arm around Uche's shoulder, while Chidera sat in front of them. Helen felt as if someone had stabbed her heart. Still, she forced herself to smile. She pointed at the picture. "Is this your husband?" Uche smiled proudly. "Yes," she answered. "That is my husband. He's the father of my children." Helen swallowed the pain in her heart. "Wow," she said with a smile. "He's a very handsome man." "Thank you," Uche replied happily. "So, how long have you been married?" Helen asked. Uche thought for a moment. "It has been about 3 years now," she answered. "He's a very good man. He takes good care of me and the children. We never lacked anything." Helen nodded gently. that is wonderful. Uche smiled again. Even his mother is very kind to me. She was with me when I gave birth to both of my children. She stayed with me and helped me take care of them. She treats me like her own daughter. Helen almost cried. So, his mother knows you? Yes, Uche replied proudly. She visits us often. She loves her grandchildren very much. Helen forced another smile. That is really nice. After talking for some time, Helen stood up. I should be going now. It was nice meeting you, Uche said. You're welcome here anytime. I will surely come again, Helen replied. Uche followed her to the door and waved goodbye. Helen walked back to her car. The smile on her face disappeared immediately. As soon as she entered the car, tears filled her eyes. She sat there quietly for several minutes before driving home. That night, Helen could not sleep. She turned from one side of the bed to the other. Many questions filled her mind. Why did Uzo do this to me? Was our marriage only a lie? Why did his mother accept another woman without telling me? Tears rolled down her cheeks. Still, she never confronted her husband. The next morning, she kissed him goodbye before he left for work. Just as she always did, she acted as if everything was normal. Days turned into weeks. Helen continued visiting Uche. The two women became very close friends. Whenever Helen visited, she bought biscuits, toys, clothes, and chocolate for Chidera and little Chisom. The children loved her very much. One afternoon, Helen was playing with the children in the sitting room when someone knocked on the door. I'll get it, Uche said. She opened the door, and immediately she saw the visitor. The smile on her face disappeared. The young man's name was Okoro. Without wasting time, Uche grabbed his hand and quickly led him behind the house. Helen became curious. She quietly stood up and walked towards the kitchen. She carefully looked through the kitchen window. From there, she could hear every word they were saying. She quickly switched on the video recorder on her phone. Okoro looked angrily at Uche. I have waited long enough, he said. Since last week, I have been asking for my money, but you have refused to pay me. Please, Uche begged softly, keep your voice down. I don't care, Okoro replied. If you don't give me 15 million naira today, I will tell everyone the truth. Uche's face turned pale. The truth? What truth? Okoro moved closer. I will tell your husband that I am the real father of those two children. I will tell him everything. Uche began to shake. Please, please, she begged. Don't destroy my home. Just give me some time. I promise I will pay you. Okoro pointed his finger at her. I am giving you until next Friday. If I don't receive my money, I will expose you, then you will lose everything. He turned around and walked away. Helen stood behind the kitchen window in complete shock. She had recorded every single word. Quickly, she returned to the sitting room and sat on the floor, playing with little Chisom as if nothing had happened. A few moments later, Uche walked back inside. She smiled with relief when she saw Helen laughing with the children. She believed Helen had heard nothing. I am sorry, Uche said. A visitor came to see me. It's alright, Helen replied with a smile. I should be going now. I have somewhere else to be. She hugged the children, said goodbye to Uche, and quietly left the house. As she drove home, Helen held her phone tightly. For the first time since discovering her husband's secret, she finally had something that could change everyone's lives forever. After leaving Uche's house that day, Helen did not rush to expose anyone. She stayed calm. She spent many days thinking. She wanted everyone to know the truth, but she wanted to do it the right way. The first thing she did was to copy the video she had secretly recorded onto a flash drive. Then she called a lawyer. I want to end my marriage, she said quietly. A lawyer listened carefully. I'll prepare the divorce papers, he replied. A few days later, Helen received a phone call from the family doctor. The doctor explained that he had been trying to reach Mr. Ozo for several days, but could not get through to him. So he decided to contact her instead. He told her that the results of the medical tests they had done earlier were now ready and that she needed to come to the hospital as soon as possible. Helen thanked the doctor and ended the call. The following day, she went to the hospital and sat in front of the doctor. The doctor asked about Mr. Uzo and wanted to know why he was not there. Helen calmly explained that Uzo had traveled and that she could listen to whatever he needed to discuss. After some time of convincing and asking for her understanding, the doctor finally brought out the test results. "What is it, doctor?" Mrs. Helen asked. "Well, you are healthy," the doctor said. "There is nothing wrong with you. You can become a mother." Helen's eyes became wild. "Then why have I never had a child?" The doctor took a deep breath. "The test your husband did showed that he has a low sperm count. It would be very difficult for him to father a child." Helen could not understand what she had just heard. She sat quietly for a few seconds, then tears rolled down her face. She covered her mouth and began to cry. "So all these years," she whispered, "the problem was never me." The doctor gently handed her a box of tissue. "I am sorry," he said softly. Helen collected the medical report, thanked the doctor and quietly left the hospital. She drove home with tears in her eyes. When she got home, she kept every document safely. The medical report, the divorce papers, the flash drive that contained the secret video, everything was ready. Helen looked at the document and whispered, "It is time." The following Sunday morning, Helen picked up her phone and called Uche. "Hello, Uche." "Good morning, Bridget," Uche replied happily. "I have good news," Helen said. "I just bought another house. I want to celebrate with the people close to me. Please come with your children." "Oh, that is wonderful," Uche said excitedly. "We will be there." After ending the call, Helen called her mother-in-law. "Mama, I have some good news to share with you. Please come to my house this morning." "I will come," Mama answered. Everything was ready. Less than 1 hour later, Uche arrived with Chidera and little Chisom. Helen welcomed them warmly. The children happily entered the sitting room. A few minutes later, Mama arrived. The moment the children saw her, they ran toward her. "Grandma! Grandma!" Mama smiled and hugged both of them, looking excited. She looked around confused. Why are these children here? She wondered. Before anyone could speak, the bedroom door opened. Uzo walked into the sitting room. The moment he saw Mama, Uche, and the children sitting together, his face changed. He stood still. What is happening here?" he asked. His voice shook. Helen looked at him calmly. "Please sit down." Slowly, Uzo sat down. The room became very quiet. Just then, another knock sounded on the door. Helen stood up and opened it. It was Okoro. The moment Uche saw him, fear covered her face. Her body began to shake. She now understood that something was terribly wrong. Helen closed the door and returned to the middle of the sitting room. She looked at everyone. "Thank you all for coming," she said calmly. "I invited all of you here because today, the truth must finally come out." Nobody spoke. Helen pointed at Uzo. "This man is my husband. We have been married for many years," she paused. "We never had children." She then held up a medical report. "A few days ago, I went to the hospital again. The doctor confirmed that I am healthy and can have children." Everyone looked at her. She continued. "The report also shows that Uzo has a very low sperm count. According to the doctor, it will be very difficult for him to father a child." The room suddenly became noisy. Mama covered her mouth. Uzo lowered his head. Ellie pointed at Okoro. "This man standing here is called Okoro." She looked at Uche. "And he is the biological father of Chidera and Chisom." "What?" Everyone shouted. Uche quickly stood up. "No, that is a lie. Uzo is the father of my children." Ellie smiled gently. "If that is true, then let us all watch something." She inserted the flash drive into the smart television. Within seconds, the video began to play. The whole room became silent. Everyone watched as Okoro demanded 15 million naira from Uche. They heard him say that he was the real father of the children. They watched Uche begging him not to expose her secret. When the video ended, nobody spoke. Mama began to cry. "My God!" Uzo slowly stood up. His eyes were full of tears. He looked at Uche. "Tell me the truth. Is everything in that video true?" Uche could no longer hide. She fell on her knees. She cried loudly.
I am sorry. I am so sorry. It was my fault. She wiped her tears. When we started dating, you wanted a child so badly. After 1 year, I noticed I was not getting pregnant. I became afraid that you would leave me. So I called my former boyfriend Okoro. I asked him to get me pregnant. After that, I became pregnant. I allowed you to believe the baby was yours. I thought you were the one with the fertility problem. Please forgive me. Mama screamed loudly, Chinekeme! She put off her hair tie and threw it on the floor. So all these years I have been carrying children who are not my son's children. Oh, hell! She cried bitterly. Ozo slowly sat back down. He looked broken. He held his head with both hands. Tears rolled down his face. What have I done? What have I done? I have destroyed my home. I have destroyed my own home. Helen quickly picked up her phone. She transferred the remaining 10 million naira to Okoro, just as she had promised. Okoro checked his phone. The money had entered. He looked at Helen. Thank you, madam. I appreciate this a lot. Without saying another word, he walked out of the house. Helen then handed the medical report to Uzo. His hands shook as he read it. Tears dropped onto the paper. I have lost everything, he whispered again and again. Helen placed the divorce paper on the floor before him. My lawyer will contact you, she said calmly. The court will decide everything according to the law. Finally, she turned toward her mother-in-law. She looked into her eyes. Mama, for many years you blamed me because I could not give you grandchildren. She paused. Today, you know the truth. I hope your heart is at peace. The old woman could not speak. She only cried, pleading with her both hands. Ellen picked up her handbag. It was too late. Without looking back, she walked to the door. She stepped outside into the bright sunshine. She closed the door behind her. This time she was not walking away in pain. She was walking away in freedom. The end. The moral lesson of the story is that never build your life on lies. The truth may hide for many years, but one day it will surely come out. Love without honesty cannot last, and blaming others without knowing the truth can destroy innocent life. Thank you.